Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sports Card Madness. This is LZ, and I am here with Nick as always. And today, our special guest is Dustin Cooley of Sports Card Dad YouTube fame. He is a great content creator as well on Instagram and a lot of other social media platforms. We are very excited to have him here today. Dustin, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me. I catch every episode, so when you had reached out, I was like, "Yes, I'm getting on. I'm getting on." I was very excited.
I have to say, you have the coolest handle in all of sports cards. It's so simple yet so effective. Sports card dad. Like, aren't we all? It's like it's
Mhm.
beautiful.
It's relatable. It's relatable, I guess. Yeah, we're all
Oh,
look,
yeah.
we're all 40s and in our midlife crisis. Everyone they see it and they're like, "Okay, this guy's probably in the same boat as
Yeah,
me."
makes sense. Yep, makes sense. So speaking of, being a dad and going through midlife crisis, I'm wondering if maybe that has something to do with your origin story, but we would love to just know, and I know you've probably shared this story a million times, but for our audience, like how did you get into this? How did you grow your popularity? We're just very curious, Nick and I.
Well, as far as getting back into the hobby, so I currently, I've said on my channel, I'm one of the weirdos, one of the very few other than LZ here that collects Stranger Things cards. And when I really look back at kind of the origin of how the content started, that show started in the summer fall of 2016 is when it came out. And that's the first show that I remember because it had such an 80s theme to it. It kind of kickstarted my 80s, 90s nostalgia journey. And so that's the show that I kind of remember when I was watching it. I was like, man, there's so many like callbacks and there's so many just references. And then it kind of spurred me to look into other things like, video games or comic books, sports cards, things that I had collected as a kid. I would say 2018 was really when I got most into it, where I was actually buying quite a bit of stuff. For between 2016 and 18, I was kind of perusing and taking a look and just seeing what was out there. But 2018 is when I really started to buy things. And my wife noticed, like, what is this? What are we doing? Like you're starting to like,
Another line item on the credit
yeah,
card. What is this?
what's going
Yeah.
on? What's this is different.
Hmm.
So 2018 is when I started in. And then I noticed in 2019 summertime, it was actually Jeff Wilson was one of the first ones that I noticed on YouTube that had sports card commentary type stuff. So I know that there was, and I'm not saying he was the first one, but he was one that was kind of talking about things he was buying or different players he liked and different cards he was buying and that sort of a thing. Whereas before that, I just saw breaks, which was brand new to me. Even sports card grading was a thing where, when I got back in 2017, 18, it was like, what is this? Like, what?
Hmm.
Because when I was in, it was, 1987 to 1993. I never saw graded sports cards when I was a kid. So getting back into this thing, I immediately went straight to Beckett. Like, well, I'm not going to buy anything other than a Beckett case, and I bought like BVG, not
Hmm.
understanding that BVG is different from, or no, not BVG, but then there was the BGGS or kind of the bogus Beckett one, the kind of that pre-grade one. That's not very good. It's kind of like subtract 3 grades, and that's probably what the actual grade is on those. So I had a big learning curve and I was just enthralled by how much everything had changed. Obviously, online marketplaces has changed everything as far as buy, sell, trade for collectibles as a whole. So, even pre-boom, there was so much to learn and just so much activity. A lot of people they focus in on the pandemic and the rise of content and people getting back in, which is true. But even prior to 2020, there was a lot of buzz and a lot of speculation on cards and people getting back into it. And so that's what kickstarted my channel in March of 2020 is when it started. And that was really kind of when pandemic hit and we were all at home. I had been talking about doing it for months. And then I finally told my wife, hey, I'm going to go downstairs, leave me alone. I'm just going to be downstairs for a while. I'm going to try to like record a couple of these episodes and see what I can do. And so I just started from there and I decided I'm going to do an episode every day on just a different hobby topic, whatever's on my mind, and just do my best to put something out there. Of course, it was really terrible in the beginning. Wasn't a lot of that in 2020. And really that was I benefited a lot from there being a lack of content when I came out because my content was not very good, but it was everybody's only option back then, other than a handful of channels. So I did grow. I did grow fairly quickly. Whereas nowadays, even though you have seen content creators that have left, they got out of it, they were in and out of it. There's a lot that have joined up, a lot of new content creators, that have come on. You guys have come on I would say fairly recently,
Yeah, yeah.
ish. So there's a lot of great content now, whereas just back then there wasn't. So that's kind of how it got started and how it's somewhat evolved.
I totally identify with it. I mean, just the whole thing, like LZ and I mean, we actually got criticized by our wives and our father-in-law because we would have a barbecue or a pool party and we just go in the corner and talk about cards or whatever. And people would just say, like, you two just need to like hit record, like just hit record or whatever. So that's what we did. And it's great. Now we're away from our wives right now recording this, which is perfect. All right, so Dustin, one thing that I've noticed you bring up a bit is the 85 star cards, and specifically you've shown a couple of Jordans. I don't know how many you have, but I've seen at least a couple on both your YouTube and your Instagram profile. I was kind of curious how you feel. So I'm an 86 Fleer guy. LZ kind of is too. I've got the full 86 Fleer set autographed.
Kind of.
Kind of
is. What do you mean, kind of?
Yeah.
Kind
I'm sort of an 86 player guy. I've got about
Sort
$1
of.
million into the card.
So, it's funny. I never really thought, like, I was just like, oh, 86 is Jordan's rookie. Like, it was just like automatic for me. I remember those packs like at Kmart when I was a kid, and I probably had a Jordan and didn't pay attention. And, now it's funny, like, now that when PSA started grading them 2 summers ago, I believe, it's
Yeah.
sort of like it was like a made man, like it legitimized it, right? And then you started to see this, like, well, hold on a second, 86 is not the rookie, 85 is the rookie. And it's funny, I like, there's so many differences, right? Like 86 Fleer, it's like 250,000 made per card. 85 star, only 3,000, and they weren't widely distributed. So I'm kind of curious, since you've obviously invested some money in 85 star, how do you feel about this whole rookie situation? Like, what do you think? And what decision process did you go through to make those purchases?
Yeah, I really don't mind if, for those that believe that the star, like the 86 Fleer is the true rookie and the star is the XRC, I'm really okay with either way. It doesn't really affect me because the decision to buy the stars was simply based around supply. The supply compared to the Fleer. I want to have the Fleer card. The Fleer is the most iconic Jordan card. So there's no debate as far as the importance of the 86 Fleer. I think a lot of people, they get kind of in the emotions about, like, you got to pick sides. It's like politics. You can't like both. I want to have an 86 Fleer. It's just for me, I'm not in a huge rush because you guys know. I mean, I can go online and with a click of a button, I can just figure out which grade I want for 86 Fleer, and it's just a matter of picking up that particular card. But so the decision to get the star was really out of concern of they are in limited supply. And so what I was worried about is that card has the ability to get out of reach price wise for me. Whereas the 86 Fleer, I can always get in. Maybe it's a lower grade, but for the star, even in the lower grade might get out of reach just simply based on the supply that's available. And so that was why I decided I need to go ahead and get in on the stars now. And I did I made a similar video going back 2 years ago almost. And it was kind of around that same kind of the Fleer versus the star. So I know there's people talking about how all of a sudden I'm just now getting into the debate, and I love hobby debates, especially one where we're talking about 80s. Look, I'm an 80s, 90s nostalgia guy, so this is right up my alley. If you look back at the history, it's really interesting. And Dr. Beckett, I'll go. He's got his own podcast, Sports Card Insights. His last couple episodes, he's talked through this. He's talked through this whole thing because really it was him and his magazine that dictated how we all feel about these cards. So that's a lot of power, for one man and for one publication. Now, I'm not saying that he asked for that. He was kind of in that situation. He had to make a call on it. In hindsight, maybe he did make the right call. Whether you agree, whether you're a star person and you think that star is the true rookie, or you think that the 86 Fleer is, when I listened to kind of the situation he was in and why he made the call he did as far as naming that 86 Fleer, the true rookie, I understand where he's coming from. Um, I can disagree on some of the semantics around, like, if it's the true rookie card or not, but it's really kind of irrelevant to me because it just boils down to the star and the supply, the supply of the star, and it's a card from the rookie season, and that's the one that I needed to get now. I felt like, for me.
Yeah,
But again, I want to have the 86 Fleer as well,
sure.
so it's not one over the other. It's just that I felt like if I don't get the star now in 5 years, it might not in 1 year, it might not be an option. So that's why I decided to go that route.
I kind of feel that way too about this. I don't have an 85 star, and now I'm kind of there's one in the wild. There's a 101 that's signed raw. Same guy I got my signed 86 from, and I want that card. But it's great for the audience. What you just said is just such smart analytical thinking when it comes to collecting. And you look at just the overprinting and the parallels and the manufactured scarcity now. You actually did like a calculation in your head and said, these are scarce, these are popular and scarce. Therefore, you made that decision. So it's super smart. Yeah, well done. I
I kind
agree.
of like the underdog story too. And, I like I'm a New Orleans Saints fan. Obviously, I like the underdog story. But 86 Fleer, so Fleer as a company, they couldn't be bothered to make NBA cards. They didn't want anything to do with it. Topps or Fleer wanted nothing to do with making cards. And I'm not saying that, Levin had his issues and he had, scandals and all sorts of, the guy that ran Star.
Mhm.
Um, but he threw down 10 grand and made star cards, like when nobody else did. So I kind of like the cool little kind of the little guy went out and tried something. Now, again, I'm not going to defend some of the actions later on. We're not smart ones, but I like that kind of underdog story and how it played out. And obviously, there's going to be people that just won't buy Star because they don't want to they don't want to deal with what you've heard kind of in the news. I would say, though, research both cards. That's part of. I see a lot of people that are speaking up on this topic that know nothing about the history of star cards.
Mhm.
Do research, because literally I hear people talk and it's like, and big voices too, big hobby voices, big channels. It's like, man, maybe look a little bit harder into it before you have such a hard stance, and that's all I'm asking. That's
Yeah.
that's all I would say. And to me, again, like, I love both cards, so it's not a either or, it's an and thing.
That's great. Dustin, you had mentioned at the beginning that you actually started with, I think it was Stranger Things, right? And you're into pop culture, 80s and 90s. Um, with kind of that star card in mind, what are some, let's call them non-sports cards or non-sports collectibles that you've researched, found that diamond in the rough, found that kind of underdog that are in your collection that are interesting? Because that's one of the reasons why I like following you, is you don't just talk about sports. You mentioned you and I had we've had some back and forth around Stranger Things because I've been trying to get into that a bit. But you're kind of opening my eyes, and I know a lot of your viewers and listeners to kind of that side of it. So just curious, what are some special collectibles you have in your collection?
So the other one, now this is not an underdog card at all. It's a known card in kind of non-sports culture card circle, but I don't know if you can see it, but it's the Art DeBart card from 1993 Skybox. And so, do you guys know this card?
I
I've
know it from
seen it.
you.
Yeah, but
I
I don't know the story behind it or anything.
Yeah. It's a beautiful card for people who are just on audio. It's got a beautiful kind of gold frame trim around it. It's got a picture of Bart Simpson's head. But Dustin, yeah, go into it and explain to people this card in particular.
So if you think back, to the early 90s, you had Ninja Turtle cards, you had Simpsons cards, you had Dick Tracy cards, like all these different, and they were mass produced. You can go, and even now you can go on there, 93 Skybox Simpsons boxes. You could probably get one for $50, let's just say, however much it is. So imagine back then you have a junk wax set essentially
Mhm.
for the Simpsons. But in that set, there's 400 redemption cards that are inside those junk wax, probably 50, 25 cents a pack, whatever, cheapo, whatever. And those redemption cards, basically what you could do is on the back of it, you write your name and you write your address and you send that into Skybox. And Matt Groening, who founded The Simpsons, he creates a original, basically like original art on that card. So that's something that he drew up there and signed, Matt Groening, and then he sends it back. Each one is different. Some of them look similar, like have Bart on them, and they have different things. But some of them have like the whole family on them. There's some that have just Homer Simpson. Some have like Marge. So they're all original pieces. They're all one of ones. It's numbered to 400, but not only about 100 to 150 is what they estimate were ever redeemed, and they have an embossed stamp on them. So when you look at, and then of course you have how many were graded, and then you're looking at grading scarcity and that sort of thing. That one is a PSA 9 auto 10, which I think it's a pop 3, and then there's like 2 10s or something. So it's a pretty high grade. But to be honest with you, I wasn't even really worried about it. If it was even ungraded, it's really just if it's authentic. I almost bought one that was just authentic from PSA, because again, I'm looking at what is actually scarce. And I think you guys we're all in the same boat. It's kind of like, it's why I think probably a lot of you guys are looking at vintage cards that are autographed, or Jordan cards that have autographs. What makes it special? What's the differentiator? And actually, let me grab real quick. This is kind of an example of what you guys are talking about. And this is my guy, Drew Brees.
Drew Brees.
So I can't see this. This is his Topps Chrome black refractor. It's numbered to 100. So it's an expensive card just on its own, but this one is signed in person, and then it's inscribed Cool Breeze on it. So that's the differentiator for the card. And I'm with you guys. And look, in this collectible space, like, there's not a lot that's special. It doesn't feel like, it's like there's a lot of the same sort of thing. The more cards you look at, a lot of it looks the same. So I'm always hunting now. I've kind of evolved into this where I'm looking for special stuff.
So 1994 is when these Simpson cards came out. Do you think, I don't know the history, but do you think that was kind of early days of the sketch cards? Because sketch cards are popular now. Do you think that was kind of the beginning of those?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up. So that card, there is another card that is considered, if you really deep dive, there's another card that's actually considered, because it came out like 1 month before that card, or some people are like, well, technically he didn't send these out until 1994.
God.
So that is the first sketch card, tied with another kind of random. There is another kind of random sketch card that no one collects. It's not attached to a big IP. So yes, that is the original tied 1A, 1B original sketch card that, of course, as you know, now is very popular.
Nice.
Cool. LZ, you know what I did with the Garbage Pail Kids? That's what it reminds me of. So I found the original artist for Garbage Pail Kids, and I took my actual the cards I bought as a 6-year-old, peeled off the stickers, and then I had him sketch inside that sticker the drawing, and then I get him slabbed by PSA. It's so sick. So it reminds me of the
that is cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And you're still doing a bit of that. Like recently you did one of those, Nick, right?
Yeah,
like
I sent him,
whatever artist still does it.
I don't know. I had this moment where I'm like, he's getting old. We're all getting old. Like, what if he just stops doing this? And, he charges a certain amount per card, and it's a fair price. And I sent him, and he gets them back to you in like 2 weeks. I'm like, this is unbelievable. Like, these are my cards I bought for 25 cents a pack as a 6-year-old. And I'm having the actual original artist like draw a 1-of-1 sketch and sign it so that it can be slabbed. And it's pretty cool. I'll give those to my kids, and it's just awesome. I mean, that's just such a part of my childhood, Yeah.
Very cool.
Cool.
So, Dustin, the other thing I wanted to talk about with you is breaking. So I got back into the hobby in I don't know, we'll call it 2019, and then really big in 2020. And one of the more shocking things to me was this whole wait a second. So there's a thing that 24/7 people are just ripping open cards, and you can buy slots in a cards. Somebody who's been on the pod, Cousin Eddie, he's the one that told me about it. And I almost didn't believe him. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's just like scratch tickets. And it's actually a thing. And then wow, what a wave. And it's funny. Yeah. I still don't know how I feel about it personally. I do know that if my 9-year-old son, wanted to use his allowance on it, I'd probably hesitate and then let him learn a lesson. But other than that, I mean, I'm okay with it, maybe with a little bit of regulation. But I was just kind of curious what you thought about this when you kind of came back into things and how you feel about it all.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. When I first saw it, I was thinking, so you're paying somebody else to open up your packs? Isn't that the fun of the whole thing? Is you don't you open the packs yourself? So that was my first initial reaction to it. I think that if we go back, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, maybe, kind of go back in time a little bit into breaking when the prices for new product were a lot lower, maybe it made more sense, because you were actually, you could argue that there was quite a bit more value that you were getting back. If you're in 2017, 18, you're pulling Patrick Mahomes cards, then you're, as those kind of aged up, then you're probably doing pretty well. But nowadays, I look at it and it's kind of like, I'd be hard pressed to find a lot of value, out. I mean, I don't know. And again, I don't have this strategy around it. I know there's some people that really enjoy it. I think if it's for entertainment value and you really enjoy the entertainment value, then fantastic. But for me, I look at it, I actually talked about it in my video today. The singles market to me is the best that it's been maybe ever,
Hmm.
so it's kind of like, why would you bother unless you're just hunting for, the one of one, the black finite, the this or that, where you feel like you need to buy a lottery ticket and, actually going out and buying that thing is very expensive. But if you're just hunting for, these parallels of whatever or certain player, I mean, those singles will hit the market. Those
Yeah.
people, they'll break it open. Those singles hit the market. Wait a few months, and maybe you wait a year, whatever, and you'll get your card. So I think it's one thing if it's for entertainment value, fine. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people, if they have the means and they can throw money at it, great, and they're getting enjoyment out of it. But if you're someone that's looking to make a living out of it, if that next break you're buying into more breaks to make up for the last breaks and all that stuff, then you may as well be pulling, may as well be just pulling the slot machine or buying the lotto tickets or whatever. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it sounds like cousin Jimmy who's found a way to beat the craps table. It's like,
Yeah.
like it's no, you haven't. You haven't.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. I got to wear my lucky jacket,
Yeah,
and
you
my
haven't figured
favorite pair of
anything out.
shoes. No, no, you haven't. It definitely it's definitely entertaining. Um, but you just gotta tread. You just gotta tread lightly because it's a slippery slope. We had another one of our friends, Fireman Steve, on, and he's talked about he went too far with breaking. It's just got out of hand. It
So
got out
far
of
that
hand
he
quick.
he couldn't even put a number on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's like that's
yeah,
not no bueno.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I
No
can understand
bueno.
if there's maybe a couple of products that you really like and you're
Mm,
looking forward to them every year. Maybe I don't know what it would, Prism. Let's say it's Prism, and you love Prism basketball, and you're just so excited. And maybe that Friday night when you've got your breaks, you spend a couple $100 and
Mm.
yeah, maybe you lose a couple $100, but you were in it and you were watching the breaks and all that. I mean, again, if it's just entertainment, then fine. But for me, I'm not much of a gambler in that way. If
mm.
I'm speculating, I think we're all speculators. If you're buying cards, if you're buying collectibles, you're probably a speculator. But yeah, I'm not much of a gambler at all.
No,
Fair enough.
neither am I. Um, Dustin, what threats do you see to the hobby over the next couple years? We'll say.
It's kind of a weird one because I think the biggest one to me is overproduction of cards.
Mm,
Just meaning that, it's kind of what, when you look back to, the 80s and the 90s, none of us have anything to show for a lot of those cards, so, but the
yeah,
difference is that it was 50 cents a pack, it was $1 a pack, couple dollars a pack. Now, granted, you couldn't pull the big ticket items, the lottery tickets weren't inside, other than the art to Bart, I guess, that I just
that's
showed.
right.
But for the most part, not a lot of lottery tickets to pull out, but there wasn't much to lose. Like your downside was you bought a pack for $1, or you bought a box for 20 or $30. Now you can really lose big. I mean, this is like, you could buy a car with, you could buy a car, you could buy a briefcase of flawless cards. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense,
Wild.
so
Hmm.
the biggest threat to me, though, I think, is if the card companies just kind of really continue the overproduction piece, because in collectibles, look, we're all fighting to find scarce stuff. We're buying stuff that's created to be scarce. It's literally like you just talked about, like buying a sticker, having a guy autograph it. That's what makes it different and special. I mean, so the idea that Topps, Panini, and these companies, they just continue to really kind of fire everything out, and we have just overproduction. Then you have a lot of people spending a ton of money on what's going to be worthless stuff. And look, you already have athletes that aren't going to work out anyway on the modern side, so there's the overproduction piece. I think the overall, I'll just use that kind of a broad brush, but just fraud in the hobby. Anytime you have big money being spent, which there's a lot of money that's funneled in. It's really no different than the art market or any of these other, kind of these collectible spaces, these alt investment, type spaces, but fake slabs, fake cards, people. There's some amazing, when you see some of the stuff online, there's these fake slabs, they look identical to a real slab, so that's the thing. I think the grading companies are working hard to try to thwart that stuff. But to me, these are kind of just the big threats given the amount of money we're all spending.
Right. Yeah, well said. Overproduction is a huge threat, I think. It turns people off, and it just feels weird to me that there's like zebra printed things that are worth 100 times more. And I just think like if aliens looked at this planet, they'd be like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, well said.
That's why they're here. They're like, man, this species is
Yeah.
yeah. That's why let's infiltrate Earth immediately.
Yeah, okay. Oh man. So Dustin, have you ever been to the National before?
Yeah, been to the last 3 nationals. So kind
Excellent.
of coming off of the pandemic. Yeah, coming off the pandemic, the first one, I guess the first big one was in Chicago or Rosemont. So Rosemont, Atlantic City, and then back to Chicago, Rosemont. Those are the last 3 I've been to, and then I'll be in Cleveland this year.
Excellent. So LZ is going to be going for the podcast. What kind of advice do you have for him? So we've only been the biggest show LZ I think we've been to is 300 tables, the Shriners show, right?
Yeah.
All right. So that's
Yeah.
the top for us. What should he be thinking of?
Do you want to buy cards? What are you targeting? You could spend a lot of time just searching for cards that you're looking for. So I think it's just coming in with a plan of what do I want to get out of this? You'll have a blast, but what do I want to get out of this? And planning really time management is a big thing.
What is your plan this year? Do you have a plan that you're already working on? And is it
as
more
a collector,
networking,
right?
As a collector, or is it
Yeah.
more, looking for more Bart Simpson cards and Stranger Things?
Yeah. So this year, just because I made a couple of big purchases recently, in years past, I kind of have a list of things I'm looking out for. But this year, I'm really kind of going in with no expectations on cards. I'm always keeping an eye out for the really rare Stranger Things cards that might just be sitting out there that just don't pop up. That's of interest to me, but nothing is really a big priority as far as buying a card at the actual show. For me this year, it'll be more about networking. I'm staying with a couple of other content creator buddies, a few other ones.
Cool.
So it's more about hanging out with friends. And it usually is anyway. I'll meet with some of the companies that I work with the channel. There's a few companies that I want to meet with that I'm not already working with that I think are interesting that I'd like to just kind of meet. A lot of it's just opening doors to meeting the people that are at these companies and just kind of just getting their take on why they started their business, what are they planning to do. Not always easy to get all of them kind of in one place, and the national offers that.
Okay.
So it'll be a combination. They're long days, so you got trade night. I mean, it's
lots of caffeine. Yep.
Absolutely.
I can only imagine. But yeah, it'll be good. I will see you out there. I'm looking forward to shaking your hand.
Definitely.
All right. We're going to end it. This is the last segment of the show, and we're switching things up. We've been switching things up a little bit differently, and me and Nick are trying to come up with kind of creative things to do at the end here. We are going to do the GOATs of sports cards bracket challenge. So we have narrowed it down into what we're calling different regions. We have the recent vintage region, and you'll see why. We have the GOATs of baseball region. We have the most quote unquote expensive region. And then we have the modern region. So we're going to go through and I'm going to name the cards and we're going to make our picks and we're slowly going to build this bracket. And we're going to see what is the GOAT card. All right, Dustin. So you ready?
Oh man, I don't know. Is anyone ready?
No, you can't. You can't prepare yourself for this.
No.
All right. So we're starting in the recent vintage region. And at the number one seed in this region, this is the West. The West, we have 86 Flair Jordan going up against 79 Gretzky. Who wins? Dustin, you're going to make the first pick, and we'll go, and there'll be if we need a tiebreaker, there'll be a tiebreaker.
I would say 86 Fleer Jordan.
All right. Jordan, Nick, are you in agreement?
Yeah, Jeremy's gonna kill me, but who collects hockey cards? Come on, I'm going with 86 Jordan.
No, Gretzky's a different
I'm kidding.
level,
I'm kidding. All the Canadian collectors. I'm kidding, but I'm going with 86 Jordan.
All right, it is with a landslide. I'm choosing Jordan as well. Okay, we're staying in the West region. This one is GOAT baseball cards. We have the 1948 Leaf Jackie Robinson. It's a number 2 seed going up against 33 Gaudy Babe Ruth. So a 48 Jackie Robinson, a 33 Gaudy Ruth. What are we going with, Dustin?
I gotta say, this is really tough because these are both amazing cards. I have to go with the 33 Gaudy Ruth on this one. I don't know. It's Jackie obviously just being, a piece of American history, obviously a very important person in history, but we're talking about the Babe, so I gotta go with that 33 Gaudy set as an all-timer.
Nick?
I'm going with Jackie, just because of what he did beyond baseball and what he meant to society.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm the tiebreaker. I am going with the Ruth card. 33 Gaudy. It's because of the set itself. It's iconic. That Babe Ruth card is just, yeah. I mean, there are a few other ones we're going to mention, but this is such an iconic card. I love the Jackie Robinson card, but I have to give it to Ruth. All right. So that closes out the West region. Moving on to the East region. We have, quote unquote, the most expensive region. We have the obvious one. Well, these are both obvious. The 52 Mantle or the Honus Wagner T206. Mantle or Honus Wagner? Dustin, what are you going with?
I have to go with Honus Wagner on this one. And it's just, for me, it's the scarcity of it. I think there's 50 or less copies. You could maybe argue that 52 Mantle is one that, is more popular maybe nowadays, but in part because people can actually own it. It's like it's just more available. So I got to go with the Honus Wagner, even though I know Mantle is, a hobby darling.
Nick?
I'm going with Mantle, and it's a funny reason. I feel like, this T206 thing, it's just because it's like the first card. It's like, who cares if it's the first card? I think the Mantle card's the best card, so I'm going with Mantle.
Oh, Nick, I'm going to trump you again. I have to tiebreaker. You literally made my argument when you said it. It's like the first card. The first card. It's as long as I've been collecting, I feel like I've always known about like this Honus Wagner card, even more than the Mantle. It was always like that one card that just like sat above everything else. And I know Mantle has gotten a lot of publicity, especially lately, with some of the prices that have been put on that thing. But I have to choose Honus Wagner.
Which one is the most expensive card, I wonder? Out of those two, that's a good question. I don't think we have the answer, really. We'd have to. No. It would depend on the auction.
All right, so now we're going to the modern region. This will close out the East, and then we'll go on to the next round. So we have the 2000 playoff contenders Tom Brady versus the 2003 exquisite LeBron James. Dustin, who are you choosing?
I love Brady, but I have to go with, because it's either you're talking about numbered out of 23 or numbered out of 99. If we're talking about the exquisite auto, LeBron, so I got to go with LeBron on this one. Even though I collect Tom Brady, but yeah, I just have to go with that exquisite card.
Nick,
I can't hide my hate for LeBron in this one. So, And I mean, geez, I'm Boston card hunter. Brady's my boy. Like, I'm sorry, I'm going
Yeah.
Brady.
Yeah. I don't collect Brady too. I get it. I'm not a fan of LeBron. I don't think I have one LeBron card, maybe one, but yeah, no, I totally get it.
I think you're right. I think it's a better card, but I refuse to vote for anything with LeBron.
Yeah, I'm already writing it down. I'm choosing Brady as well. I'm not trumping you, Nick, this time. It's Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. He is the GOAT. Dustin may argue with me because I know he's a huge Drew Brees fan, but
Oh no, I've got a lot of just as many Brady cards as Breeze. Yeah,
yeah.
no,
Okay.
Brady's the GOAT for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're moving back to the West. All right. So we're going Michael Jordan, 86. 86 Michael Jordan or the 33 Gowdy Ruth. Dustin, Jordan or Ruth?
So I go Jordan on this one. And I understand again, if you go back to kind of pre-war baseball folks, they're gonna, flip out. But I'm also thinking of kind of that next generation of collectors, and Michael Jordan is everything. He's got a global brand. He's well known now. He'll be well known in 20, 30, 40 years. Not saying that Babe Ruth won't, but none of us have ever seen Babe Ruth play. None of us have ever seen Mickey Mantle play. I just think Jordan has more global appeal. And that 86 Fleer card, like I said, it's the most iconic basketball card and Jordan card. It's a very important card. I'm going with the 86 Fleer.
Okay, Nick.
86 Fleer, baby. And it's very similar reasons. I feel like the people that collect or worship that Gowdy are in a slow decline, where the Jordan,
Ooh,
are fired. Yeah, I don't know. I could be wrong. Whatever. I mean, whatever. I don't own it. It's an amazing card either way. But I'm gonna take MJ.
Okay. All right. So we have a win there. So MJ gets it. All right. Moving on back to the East. Are we going with the T206 Wagner or Tom Brady? 2000 Tom Brady.
T206 Wagner, just overall history and importance. And Brady's got so many damn cards. I know Honus Wagner has cards too. I get it, but I got to go to Wagner.
This one feels like a 16th seed snuck in, and they're playing like Duke in their prime. It's like, I'm sorry, Wagner wins. It's like,
yep, Wagner gets that one. All right, so quickly, MJ versus Wagner. Jeez. Dustin for the championship.
This is hard to pick because it shouldn't be, but again, I just have to go. I think I'm just going to go 86 Fleer Jordan card. And it's simply, again, because I understand the history and everything and the importance of the Wagner, but I mean, I guarantee that half of the people that collect cards don't even know about this Honus Wagner card, but they know about the 86 Fleer Jordan card. So I'm not saying it's near as, the values are different, obviously, but I'm going 86 Fleer Jordan.
Okay, Nick.
God, people are gonna call us like 86 Fleer cheerleaders eventually. But I think
I bought the star card. So look at me.
I feel like the Honus Wagner card is like a card for the hedge fund, and like the 86 Fleer card is a card for the people. You know what I mean? And
it is.
I don't know. I'm gonna go with 86 Fleer. I've got one signed by him, and I'm picking 86 Fleer.
Wow, I'm already visualizing the comments.
We're gonna get so much crap. Now
Spotify.
All the baseball card collectors like, these are the dumbest guys in the whole hobby.
No, this isn't like if somebody walked up to me and said, would you rather have one or the other? Of course I'm going to take the most expensive card, okay?
Well, we're not talking about values. We're just talking
exactly.
We're not. Yes, let's clarify that. All right, so MJ takes it.
That was kind of fun. We might have to do this again. That was a weird, like, we're like matching up like Honus Wagner with Brady,
even pausing and thinking about that one.
All right,
that's great.
Let's close this down before everybody revolts and yells at us about our selection. So Dustin, most likely everybody has probably already heard of you, but if they haven't, how can they follow you or find you on YouTube and Instagram? And, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, thanks again for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I watch every episode that comes through. So to be on one is a lot of fun. I'm the Sports Card Dad on YouTube. I have to remember my handles. I'm at Sports Card Dad on IG. And then on Twitter, I think I'm just the Sports Card Dad. It's pretty consistent.
And you do an episode almost every day on YouTube, right? or every weekday?
I do. Yeah, it's usually 7 days a week. I do have another couple of guys do a podcast. That's the Saturday show.
Hmm.
Deep and Drake do the Pick Six podcast, and that plays on Saturdays. So that kind of gives me a day off. So but yeah, 6 days a week is my stuff typically.
Excellent. Good stuff. Well, yeah, thanks again for joining. This was a blast.